You were fine. You were fine all morning. Got dressed, felt reasonably okay, maybe even a little confident. And then someone took a photo, or you accidentally caught yourself on a video call in that tiny square in the corner of the screen. And something in you just dropped, not dramatically, not a meltdown, just a quiet, cold drop, like something falling off a shelf inside your chest, because the person in that image doesn't look like you. It doesn't match. The face is wrong. The angles are wrong. Your nose looks different. Your jaw sits differently. Something about the way your eyes are spaced, or the way your mouth rests, or the way the light falls across your cheeks, it's just off. It's like looking at a stranger who has stolen your name. And the worst part isn't the image itself. The worst part is what happens in the next 3 seconds, because your brain moves fast. In those 3 seconds, it pulls up every photo you've ever hated, every candid shot you've asked to be deleted, every morning where you felt fine until the camera said otherwise. And it assembles a verdict. Quietly, efficiently. The verdict is, that's the real you. The mirror is the lie. The photo is the truth. And the truth is that you are significantly less attractive than you've been allowing yourself to believe. You've thought that, haven't you? In almost exactly those words. Maybe you've never told anyone. Maybe you framed it as a joke, I'm just not photogenic, and laughed it off. But alone at night, you have genuinely wondered whether the version of yourself you see in the mirror every morning is a comfortable fiction your brain has constructed to help you function. And the photo is the correction, the evidence, the thing that cuts through. And here's the belief underneath all of that, the one you would never say out loud, that you've been fooling yourself, that other people see the photo version when they look at you. That the confidence you feel on good days is built on a foundation that a single image can demolish in 3 seconds flat. That the way you look to the rest of the world is closer to the camera's version than the mirror's version. That thought has been living in you for a long time. And what I want you to know, before we go anywhere else, is that there is a specific, documented, deeply counterintuitive scientific explanation for exactly what you're experiencing. It has nothing to do with your attractiveness. It has nothing to do with how you actually look to other people. It is about something happening inside your brain that almost nobody explains correctly. And once you understand it, the verdict your brain has been delivering is going to completely collapse. But I want to sit here a little longer first, if this is landing for you. If that drop in the chest is familiar, if you've had that 3-second verdict experience more times than you can count, I genuinely want to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments. Tell me when it started, what the specific moment was, how it's affected the way you move through the world. I read those comments. I build videos directly out of them. Your experience could become the thing that finally makes someone else feel less alone at 2 in the morning. That's not a small thing. Now let's close the loop. There's a concept in perceptual psychology called the mere exposure effect. It was first documented rigorously by a social psychologist named Robert Zajonc in 1968, and it describes one of the most quietly powerful forces in how your brain constructs preference. The principle is this: familiarity creates preference. Not just neutral recognition, actual preference. The more you have been exposed to something, the more attractive, comfortable, and correct it feels to you. Not because it is objectively better, because your brain has built a deep, fluent internal model of it, and fluency feels like rightness. Think about a song you hated the first time you heard it on the radio, and then it played again and again, and 3 weeks later you caught yourself singing it in the shower. The song didn't change, you changed. Your brain built a model of it, and the model became comfort, and the comfort became something that felt like preference. That is the mere exposure effect. Now apply that to your face. You have seen your own face in a mirror for every single day of your life. Thousands and thousands of exposures. Your brain has built the most detailed, fluent, deeply grooved internal model of that face that it has ever built for anything. The mirror version of your face is the most familiar image your brain possesses. More familiar than any family member's face. More familiar than your own handwriting. More familiar than the house you grew up in. And then there's the photo. The photo shows you a flipped version, or a slightly different angle, or a slightly different lighting condition. And your brain, which has been expecting its deeply rehearsed internal model, receives something that doesn't quite match. It's close, but it's off. And close but off feels wrong. It doesn't just feel unfamiliar. In the context of your own face, it feels worse. Because your internal model is so deeply grooved, any deviation from it registers not as different, but as incorrect. This is why you hate your face in photos. Not because the photo is showing you something ugly, because it's showing you something that doesn't match your brain's most deeply held template, and the mismatch gets interpreted as a flaw. Here's where this connects to what we talk about on this channel. Your brain is a prediction machine. Every moment of your waking life, your brain is generating predictions based on past experience, and then comparing those predictions to incoming data. When the data matches the prediction, it registers as smooth, as correct, as fine. When the data doesn't match the prediction, your brain flags the mismatch as something to attend to. Psychologists call this prediction error, and your brain has been training its prediction model for your face your entire life. Every morning mirror, every reflection in a window, every time you've checked your appearance before leaving the house. Your prediction model for your own face is extremely precise. The photo violates that prediction, and the violation gets flagged. But here is the layered cruelty of this. Because your brain doesn't flag the mismatch as the photo is different from my internal model. It flags it as something is wrong with the face in this image. Your brain doesn't have access to its own modeling process. It can't see the machinery. It just experiences the output. And the output says, that's not quite right, and you interpret not quite right as unattractive. When in reality, all that's happening is a template mismatch inside a prediction engine that has been calibrated to one very specific, very familiar, slightly inaccurate version of your face. Let me make this physical. Let me give you something you can actually feel. Imagine a smoke alarm in a kitchen, a good kitchen. The alarm has been calibrated over years to the specific baseline smells of that kitchen. Coffee in the morning, the particular wood of the cabinets, whatever gets cooked regularly. And because of that calibration, it almost never goes off for normal cooking. It knows what normal smells like in this specific kitchen. Now take that same alarm and move it to a different kitchen. Different smells, different baseline, different cooking patterns. The alarm isn't broken, the new kitchen isn't on fire, but the alarm is going to trip. Because the calibration is wrong for the new environment. That alarm is your brain's face recognition prediction model. The mirror is its home kitchen. The photo is a different kitchen. The alarm isn't telling you that you're ugly. It's telling you that the environment doesn't match the calibration. The alarm is going off because you moved it somewhere new. The alarm is not evidence of fire, and I need you to hold that alarm image. Because we're going to come back to it. Because your brain has been reading that alarm for years as a reliable signal, and it is not. It has never been. Not once has it been an accurate report of what other people see when they look at you. Now let me show you the cycle you've been living through. It starts with a moment, a photo, a video call, a candid shot someone posts without warning. Doesn't matter which. The moment arrives. Your brain runs its prediction. The mismatch happens. The alarm trips. And then, in the next 3 seconds, your brain does something that feels like analysis, but is actually catastrophizing. It pulls the worst photos from memory. It reconstructs moments where you felt bad about your appearance. It runs a fast, vicious summary of every piece of evidence that supports the conclusion that the photo version is the real version. This is not careful reasoning. This is your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, assembling a rapid threat assessment. It does this with the same neural machinery it would use if you just heard a loud noise behind you in the dark. Threat detected. Evidence gathered, verdict delivered. The verdict arrives as certainty. It doesn't feel like a thought, it feels like a fact. And because it feels like a fact, you don't question it. You just absorb it. And the absorption gets laid down as a memory. And the memory gets added to the evidence pool that the next photo alarm will draw from. Every alarm adds to the pile. Every pile makes the next alarm louder. Until eventually you've trained yourself to brace for photos before they even happen. You angle yourself. You find the good side. You make the face you've learned to make. And sometimes even that isn't enough. And the drop happens anyway, and the verdict is delivered again, and the pile gets a little bigger. That is the cycle. You've lived it so many times that it feels like the truth about your face. But it is not. It is a calibration error that has been compounding for years, and the alarm has been going off in an empty kitchen. But here is what nobody ever tells you. Every piece of advice about this. Learn to love yourself. Stop seeking validation from photographs. Focus on what your body can do. Practice gratitude for your appearance. Every single one of those approaches operates from the assumption that the problem is your relationship to your appearance, that you need to think differently about how you look, that it's a mindset issue. It isn't. The problem is not that you have negative thoughts about your face. The problem is that your brain's prediction model is miscalibrated. And every time you absorb the alarm's verdict as fact, you deepen the miscalibration. Telling yourself to love what you see in photos is like telling a smoke alarm in the wrong kitchen to stop being so sensitive. The alarm doesn't need encouragement. It needs recalibration. This is why every affirmation you've tried has felt hollow. This is why the therapist's reassurance worked for 10 minutes and then the next photo hit and everything collapsed again. This is why just unfollow the accounts that make you feel bad, addressed one input but left the core mechanism completely intact. None of those things were wrong. You were not doing them wrong. They were just aimed at the symptom, and the actual lever was somewhere else the whole time. Every attempt you made was a real attempt. Every time you tried to reframe it, you were doing the right thing with the wrong tool. Now let me give you the right tools. Tilly 1. The exposure log, what it solves. The mismatch between your brain's internal model and every image that isn't a mirror. Here's what you do. Open your phone's notes app or grab a piece of paper. For the next 2 weeks, once a day, spend 60 seconds looking at a photo of yourself that you don't hate. Not your best photo ever. Just a neutral one, a real one you can actually sit with. Look at it for 60 seconds. Do not evaluate it. Do not make it good or bad. Just look. Then close the app. That's it. 60 seconds, one photo, once a day. What this does in your brain is directly address the calibration problem. You are slowly, methodically exposing your prediction model to the photo version of your face, building a second groove alongside the mirror groove. You are expanding the range of what your brain considers familiar for your own face. And as that familiarity builds, the mismatch alarm will get quieter, not because you've learned to love the photo, because the photo is no longer completely foreign to your brain's model. This is the mere exposure effect used deliberately. You're running the science backward in your favor. The smoke alarm is learning the new kitchen. It takes time. It won't feel like anything is happening. That's correct. That's what calibration feels like from the inside. Nothing, and then less alarm. TLE 2. The verdict audit, what it solves. The moment the 3-second verdict arrives, and your brain reads it as fact, when the alarm goes off, when the photo drop happens, you're going to do one thing before you absorb the verdict. You're going to write it down. In your notes app, in whatever shorthand works for you, you're going to write the exact thought your brain produced. Word for word. Don't soften it. Don't reframe it. Write the ugly version. This is my real face, and it's worse than I thought. People can see this, and I've been pretending otherwise. Whatever it is, write it exactly. And then, underneath it, you're going to write one single question, not an affirmation. A question. The question is, what is the other explanation? Not, is this untrue? Not, I should love myself. Just, what else could explain what I'm seeing? And then you write down the calibration answer. Something like, my brain's model expects the mirror version. The photo is a different angle, and my prediction engine flagged the mismatch as a flaw. That's the alarm, not the evidence. You don't have to believe it the first time. You don't have to feel it. You just write it. Because what you're doing is inserting a gap between the alarm and the verdict. Just a small one. A moment where your cortex, the part of your brain capable of actual reasoning, gets to say one word before the amygdala files its report. That gap is where change lives. Over time, the gap gets wider. The verdict starts arriving with a little asterisk. And eventually, for some people, the verdict stops arriving at all. And the alarm just makes a small noise that you can look at and recognize. TLE 3. The mirror narrowing what it solves. The over-calibration to the mirror version. The source of the original mismatch. This one is subtle, and you might resist it at first because it feels counterintuitive. For 1 week, I want you to spend slightly less time with the mirror. Not eliminating it, not covering it. Just one fewer lingering check per day. The one where you stand and study, the one where you're really looking. Cut that one out. And instead, when you do look in the mirror, make it brief, functional. Check what you need to check and walk away. What this does is begin to gently loosen the grip of the mirror model. Your brain's prediction model for your face has been trained primarily on mirror exposure, and that's why everything that isn't a mirror feels wrong. By reducing mirror time slightly, you're reducing the reinforcement of the one calibration groove that makes everything else look like a deviation. You're not making the mirror bad. You're just making it a little less dominant. Some people find this uncomfortable in the first few days. That discomfort is important information. If the idea of looking in the mirror for slightly less feels threatening, that is evidence of how dependent your brain has become on mirror checking as a regulation tool, which is its own thing, and we'll talk about that in a future video. But for now, one fewer lingering check. That's all. See what loosens .ely for. The body anchor what it solves. The full body alarm response when the photo drop happens. The cold in the chest, the stomach tightening, the physical sensation of the verdict landing. This one works from the bottom up. Not thoughts, body. When the alarm trips, when the drop happens, before you look at the image again, before you form any thoughts, before the 3-second verdict can assemble, you're going to do one thing. Place one hand flat on your sternum, center of your chest. Press gently and take 3 breaths into that pressure. Not deep yoga breaths, normal length breaths, but intentional. Into the hand. Feel the chest rise into your palm, then look at the image. What this does physiologically is activate your vagus nerve before the threat response can fully escalate. The physical pressure on the sternum combined with intentional breathing signals to your autonomic nervous system that you are not in danger. You are interrupting the amygdala's takeover before the verdict gets filed as survival-relevant information. Because here's what's happening in your body during the photo drop. Your nervous system is treating the image like a genuine threat. The same hardware that would activate if you were about to be physically hurt is activating in response to a photograph. The cold drop, the tightening, the hollow feeling, that is physiological arousal, not insight. Your body is preparing to protect you from a threat that does not exist. The hand on the sternum tells it, we are safe. The image cannot hurt us. We can look. It will feel strange the first time. It will feel like a trick. Your brain will say, this is too simple to work. That's fine. Do it anyway. The science doesn't require your belief to function. Now, I want to say something honest about what the next few weeks might feel like. When you start using these tools, especially the exposure log, especially the verdict audit, there will be a period where things feel slightly worse before they feel better. You might notice the alarm more clearly because you're paying attention to it now. You might feel more aware of the drop because you're watching for it. You might do the verdict audit and write the thought down and feel the weight of it more intensely than usual because you're not immediately suppressing it. This is not the tools failing. This is your nervous system encountering friction where there used to be an automatic rut. The rut was smooth. Smooth felt like calm. This is less smooth, and less smooth feels like worse. But here is what it actually is, biologically. Your brain is forming new neural pathways that challenge deeply grooved old ones. The grooves don't give up easily, they resist. The resistance is the alarm going off louder because you're not immediately responding the way it expects. You're not running the old circuit. And when you don't run the old circuit, the alarm escalates briefly before it recalibrates. That escalation is biological proof the tools are working. If you feel it, stay with it. Not heroically, not painfully, just steadily. It is not a sign that this is wrong for you. It is the exact sign that this is right for you, and the system is starting to shift. Now I want to be straight with you about something, because I think this matters more than anything else I could say. Everything I've described in this video applies to a specific experience. The mismatch between how you see yourself in mirrors versus photos, the calibration error, the prediction model gone too precise. That is a real and common and deeply manageable experience. But there is a different experience, one that looks similar on the surface, where the distress isn't primarily about photos, where the distress is constant, and the mirror doesn't feel safe either, and the checking is compulsive, and the verdict arrives in many contexts and is almost never correctable by logic or explanation or even exposure. Where the experience of your face and your body creates significant daily impairment that goes beyond the cold drop. That experience has a clinical name: body dysmorphic disorder. and it is not the same thing as what we've been discussing. It lives in a different part of the neuroscience. It requires a different approach, specifically a form of cognitive behavioral therapy with a trained clinician who specializes in it. If what I described in this video felt close but not quite right, if the distress is much larger than photos, if it follows you constantly, if it takes up significant hours of your day, please treat that as information worth taking to a professional. Not because there's something wrong with you, because there are people who have spent their careers learning to recalibrate exactly this, and you deserve their specific expertise, not a general explanation. This video is not for that experience. I want to be honest about where the map ends, so the next time the alarm goes off, the next time you're ambushed by a photo, and the 3-second verdict begins to assemble, here's what you say to yourself, not to feel better. As armor, as the thing you reach for before the verdict can land. The alarm is going off. I know what that is. My prediction model is flagging a mismatch between the mirror version and this version. That mismatch is not evidence of a flaw. That mismatch is calibration. The alarm is not telling me about my face. It's telling me it's working with an imprecise model. This is not a verdict. This is a signal from a system I am already in the process of recalibrating. You don't have to believe those words completely. You just have to say them before the verdict files itself as fact. The gap is everything. Say the words. Hold the gap. That's the whole thing. Because here's what you actually are. Underneath all of this, you are not someone with an unattractive face who has been fooling yourself with mirrors. You are someone with a brain that has been so faithful to one image of you. The morning mirror, the 10,000 morning mirrors, that anything else trips the alarm. And for years, you have been reading that alarm as truth. The alarm was never truth. It was just a very loyal, very imprecise system doing the only job it knows how to do. And right now, as you're sitting with this, something in that system is already beginning to shift. You can't feel it yet. You won't be able to for a while. But the smoke alarm in the wrong kitchen is smelling the new air. And slowly, not dramatically, not all at once, it is learning what this kitchen smells like. It is learning when it's safe to rest. In the next video, we're going to go to the other side of this. Because there's a mirror paradox that runs in exactly the opposite direction. People who look in mirrors and feel fine, maybe even good, but then walk into a room full of people and suddenly feel like they're dissolving. The performance self and the private self, and why the social context collapses the confidence the mirror built. That one is its own mechanism entirely. It might be the one you need most.